Mississippi Burning. Join me in welcoming Mr. James Sturdom and his esteemed co-writer, Miss Shira. Welcome to the show, the both of you. How are you?
How you doing, Clark?
Unmuted.
Great. Thank you, Clark, for having us. My name is Shira. It's pronounced Shira.
Oh, Shira. Well, let's get started. I know we've got a lot to dive into. You have what could be easily described as an amazing story of being in the right place, some would say at the wrong time.
Yeah, at least.
Talk a little bit about, let's just go back to the very beginning, and we are talking circa mid-60s, and by the way, I wasn't even born yet. I was coming, but I hadn't even gotten there yet. But during this time, as most people know, in the United States, especially in the Deep South, it was time of serious segregation and a serious battle against civil rights movement, which was steadfast going on at that time. And as we alluded to earlier, many people know the story that happened, at least a lot, who read the book or saw the movie Mississippi Burning. Could you take over from there just a little bit about how this sets itself up? We don't want to give everything away.
Well, first, don't feel bad. You said you was coming. I was just born in 1964. So, we pretty much not that far apart. And so it was a lifetime ago that I knew nothing about. Thank God for our forefathers, our parents who fought the battles for our freedoms today. But Clark, let me tell you something. What you're going to find out is not your typical civil rights black story here. Unfortunately, I was in jail and was vindicated, but I had to go through this experience. God had me in the right place where he wanted me, because this man for 50 years never talked about his experiences and told the truth about what happened. But he wrote me 174 letters of confession of everybody he ever killed, all the details about the Klan. He told me everything. He also gave me his 41 acres of property, which all these things taking place at, and he gave me his powers of attorney. So, in the long run, I guess the end justified the means in which it happened. And we're blessed that I was there to receive the historical information and to set history straight. But I think the most important thing you're going to find out, Clark, is that's why you have Shira, who's I'm very proud to have involved in this book, is that the Jews played a part in this whole storyline that was so amazing that we just had to find it out. Here's how it was set up. I was arrested by the United States Secret Service, the FBI, the United States Postal Inspector on a charge called corporate wire fraud. I was a victim of identity theft. I was the wrong person in the wrong place, basically. It was a warrant out of Mississippi. I was cleared by all federal agencies within 2 weeks of being arrested, but Mississippi decided to continue and hold me. I stayed in jail for 2 years, 6 months without ever being charged or indicted, waiting for extradition. And when I finally got extradited to Mississippi, I was there for 2 months, and they immediately, without a trial, just gave me 25 years. The judge says, you got 25 years, send them away. I was like, whoa, a trial, something, hello, justice, a lawyer. They didn't want to hear it. They just sent me to prison. They took me to a place called Parchman, which was the toughest prison in the country. You remember there was a movie called Brubaker made off that place. And while I was there, I was fighting my case as my own lawyer because no one would represent me. And as you can see, I won. I'm back out of the street. I'm free, vindicated. But while I was there, coming back from court one day, they told me a man named Edgar Ray Killen was going to be my cellmate. Because they asked me, did I know anything about him? I said, no. They said, have I ever seen the movie? I said, no. So they put me in a cell with him because they figured he would stay alive better with me than any other black inmate in the prison. Because I was from California and I was fighting to go home, so they knew I wouldn't try to kill him. Because if I did kill the man or do something to him, I would never got out. So that's how I ended up in a cell with him. While I was in the cell with him, we had a few experiences that we're not going to mention because they'll be a subject of the book and movie. But let's just say that I wasn't treated well by the black inmates because I was in a cell with this Klansman. It even got to the point where the two gangs, the Vice Lords and the Gangster Disciples, beat me to death, misunderstanding my role in his life. And finally, when they found out that this man was telling me all of his secrets and writing me all these letters, they later became my biggest protectors, defended me, made sure no one touched me so I can get all this information. And so I walked out of prison with something that no one ever thought would happen in life. All the secrets that people ever wanted to know about how the civil rights movement got started. Lyndon B. Johnson, Senator Eastlands. He named every powerful person you can ever think of in these letters that he was involved in as a Klansman. Judges, lawyers, senators. It was unbelievable. So naturally, these letters became very sought after by not only the Justice Department, who incidentally has closed out every civil right murder. I don't know if you knew that. They're all closed out for all times to come now behind these letters. The Smithsonian Institute has already accepted my letters to receive them, to be on display when we're ready. And as you know, I do have a tremendous book deal. Will Smith, Columbia Pictures, Overbrook, and a wonderful book deal with Abundant Press, Andy Broadway, and my co-writer is Shira Bush. And there's a very good reason for her being the writer. A Jewish woman. Very good reason for that.
Well, I want to go into that. And thank you for being patient, Ms. Bush. I want to talk to you about your role as Mr. Sternum pointed out, as co-writer in this particular case. This is a very interesting story because as a historian, I follow a lot of things, even if it was before my time. And I know in this particular case, at least the argument has been made over time that if it were not for the gentleman who was white and the gentleman who was Jewish, that this probably would never have been a book, never have been a big deal, never have been known to anyone. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that's a truism? And what can you bring to light with your part in this writing?
Thank you, Clark. First of all, I have to agree with you. It would never have been brought to light if it wasn't for the two white men or white boys at the time coming down and being civil rights workers because of what was going on at the time. And they were from New York. They were from back east. And their families were demanding to find out what happened because they, in essence, disappeared. And the nature of who they were, according to the families and the background information and the history that we have, is this was not typical of them. So and with everything I've read and everything I've studied thus far in preparation for this, I have to agree with you 100%. If it was not this set of circumstances, if the parents wanting them back, it would not have been brought that much forward as it was, and the pressure wouldn't have been put on the federal government to figure out what was going on.
And Clark, let me interject real quick there that Edgar Ray Killens was pissed off. Edgar Ray Killens was the imperial wizard of the KKK who controlled 4 million Klansmen at that time. All the killings that was happening prior to this incident, because of these 2 Jews came up missing, Lyndon B. Johnson ordered 2,000 federal troops to Neshoba County, Mississippi, which is smaller than we have a place called Compton or Watts in L.A., and he told them to find these 2 Jews. Now, because of consequently looking for those 2 Jews, 400 bodies were found in the lakes, ravines, creeks, and throughout the forest.
Wow.
That's what brought this to light.
I'm curious, having had the opportunity to speak with this man, why do you think he felt any remorse or at least wanted to purge himself by telling you the truth?
Let me, please, no disrespect, let me correct you. He was not having a kumbaya moment with me, Clark, when he was talking to me. Okay? This is not a Bambi story, so some of the language is not the most pleasantest, and the N-word is used quite a bit out of his mouth. You can understand it. To him, I was nothing more than the N-word. Okay? And I say it openly so I can drive the point home. I was called a nigger more times than I ever thought I was a black man by this guy. When he was talking to me, he was bragging about the good old heydays in which he felt we can kill a good nigger. So he wasn't having a kumbaya moment. He was bragging about the times he missed. He was telling me his stories that he just totally embraced as the greatest times of his life. This was an evil man.
Ms. Bush, what are your thoughts about, as we find ourselves in 2016 in similar focus where we have people in law enforcement, we'll say at the time, allegedly having biases, if not prejudices, against people of African American or African Americans. Do you see a sense of this thing playing itself out once again?
Well, to be truthfully honest, Clark, I pray every day that it doesn't play itself out as far as it did back then. I would like to see a lot more peace and a lot more harmony, a whole lot quicker than what we've been dealing with recently, and before it really gets out of hand. I have the privilege of working with numerous black men who are working to stop this situation at hand of I'll call it racism for the moment, in terms of what's going on with the police and the unrest that's been going on, and that it's a them versus us. Our whole principle of the book, and if you go to the JamesSternStory.com website, you'll see that what we're driving towards is racial reconciliation. Not that somebody is this race or another race. We are all one in the human race. And the part that's interesting, you'd asked me a moment ago about what role I play or what am I bringing to the table in essence of this. Originally, the co-author that was selected was Maya Angelou. And after she passed, James decided that it might be better to have an alternate perspective. The interesting part is I grew up Jewish in New York, extremely well educated, in a very relatively heavy black community. And my father was very, very active politically, and he used to take me to the civil rights marches. And and people said, how could you do that? And it was like, but they're fighting for what we fought for previously. So it was a very good logical fit when I was presented with this opportunity. And to me, it wasn't something I could say no to. To me, it was something that I really have an opportunity here with James to set a story straight and really to make a very huge difference in today's society, in today's world. Not just in this country, but across the world.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Clark, I'm going to say, I'm going to have a little fun because, it's a very serious matter, but I was under a lot of pressure naturally to pick who's going to write the book, who's going to be the screenwriter for the movie, who is I going to get to produce it and distribute it. You can understand I have many offers come my way. I mean, from Fox to National Geographic for documentaries, for feature films, to all the way to Sony, and finally where it's at now is Columbia Pictures in Overbrook. And, all the authors that came my way, originally Dr. Maya, God bless her, rest her soul, Dr. Maya Angelou, a wonderful woman who embraced me before she passed away and introduced me to a couple of speech agents and people like that she thought I should be involved in. She wanted the book, but I did not want the book to have a poetic overtone. That's the first thing. This is not a poetic story. This is, unfortunately to say, this is the worst time of racial relationships in American history that blacks and whites were dealing with. The most violent times, minus slavery itself. Okay. Second of all, I went to Dr. Shira. I call her Dr. Shira Bush because she's so educated. And I needed someone who understood not only the plight of the black person, but I needed somebody who had an intimate knowledge of the pains of the Jews. So when I asked her, before I made the selection, I asked her a question. And Shira, do you mind if I tell them the question I asked you?
Oh, absolutely. And let me just say this, James, in addition to what you've just said, it was the most controversial time. It was the hardest time in our country's history with racial violence until now.
Right.
It's almost as if it's come full circle.
Deja vu, all over again.
That was then, yet once again. So yes, please go ahead and tell them.
Clark, I asked her, and I was co-frank, because understand, my father is Ethiopian Jew, and I grew up in an Ethiopian Jewish family. While I'm a Christian, born-again Christian, and a minister, I grew up in the Jewish lifestyle as Ethiopian. But I can say this to you. I looked at Shira and I asked her, before I gave her the books and the story rights to write it with me, I said, can you put the same passion into the civil rights movement as you would put into the Holocaust? My concern was, there's no more passionate subject to the Jews today than the Holocaust. It was a very painful time and a very horrific time of their history. And so I needed somebody who could not only write a civil rights story about blacks, but I needed someone who can put the same pain that they had in the Holocaust. Because remember, there was 2 white guys, Jewish guys, who was intimately involved in coming down trying to help African Americans register to vote and investigate some of the crimes going on down there. And as a result, they lost their lives, murdered, gunned down by this situation. So I say to you that... Go ahead.
No, please continue.
No, I say that to say that I needed the best of both worlds. See, I know my story that Edgar gave me. I'm going to make sure that the integrity and all the factual storyline of this story is going to be there, because I was there with Edgar every day for a year and 6 months. So I know everything that said is going to be factual. But I also needed the passion of someone who actually can say, this is what we Jews gone through. It's for us to go down there and help African Americans and register to vote and, to get involved and during some dangerous times. Come on, let's keep it real. This is a time when the Klan controlled the South. They were the law down there. 4 million Klansmen Edgar Ray Killens had at his fingertips. No one died at the hands of the Klan unless Edgar Ray Killens ordered it. So it was a very dangerous time, and I thank Shira for taking on this with me, and we plan on doing something. And I have to say, Columbia Pictures, they're unbelievable. Overbrook, when Will and their people decided to take this as a movie, it was already slated in another direction. But they assured me, which I've spent many hours in talking to them, they are the most qualified people to do this type of movie, because it's going to be so factual and so horrific that it's going to make you thought Roots was kind of bad. This is going to make you really think. Most people didn't realize that the Klan hung as many white people as they did black people. Did you know that, Clark?
I had no idea, but my producer is having us log it up. I want to make sure we get this out before we go. Please tell everybody how they can continue to follow your journey so they can stay up to time on when this book will be out or eating.
Mm-hmm. Let me give you a website. I have a website that have both websites on it. They can follow www.thejamesstern.com. On that, they can also go to thejamessternstory.com. So either one of those websites, they can follow my journey and be involved in what we're doing here. We believe there's only one race, Clark, and that's the human race. And I want to thank once again Abundant Publishing Company who's doing the book. While a lot of people are afraid to touch the story, because they're afraid of what Klansmen would say today.
Clark,
yes.
Well, your audience, when they do go to the JamesSternStory.com, they will have an opportunity to sign up so that they can get updates as we continue moving forward with both the book and the movie.
Absolutely.
And it's
perfect.
It's James, James, Stern, Stern, Story, STORY.com. JamesSternStory.com.
Shira Bush, James Sternum, thank you both for taking on this journey. I know it's a lot to undertake, but thank you for having the courage to write it.
Thank you. And tell Black, the group that you had on before, I said hello. I'm a fan.
I will.
Okay.
Shout out to Brother Jeff Green also for connecting us together.
All right. Definitely Jeff is the greatest publicist there is. I appreciate him. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
All right.
Our pleasure.